Hey folks, Rainmaker.com here. It is now January 2019, which is a couple months after July of 2018 when the stages L10, L50, and M50 units were announced. Now, of course, they had aimed to be in shipping a while back this past fall, but better late than never, and we're almost there. They're almost there, more importantly. And so what I've got here is a kind of a first test ride in the new year on all these units. So I'm about to go out for a ride. I've got here the L10 right there. I've got the L50 right there and the M50 right there. So these two are color. This one's not. 149, 249, 349. Just remember, it's all 49 pricing. And essentially, the L10 is kind of like the older stages unit, except the fact that now it has a course support and a few other features there. But at 149, it's probably like the steal in the whole lineup there. Whereas the 249 M50 is effectively like a Wahoo Bolt or an Edge 520. It is full color though, unlike the Wahoo Bolt, and it's got kind of more course map detail than the Wahoo Bolt does, but more on that portion later on. Anyways, we're just going to go out for a ride. I'm going to kind of talk to the different features as we're riding along. I'm shooting this all on the DJI Osmo Pocket. It's the first time I've tried using this while riding, so if it sucks, sorry. I'll just do a voiceover or something like that instead. So I think it'll look pretty, but I have no guarantees on the audio levels. So with that, let's get headed out, and I'll kind of walk through things along the way. Okay, well, the audio wasn't horrible on this. I'm just going to go ahead and keep it in voiceover mode. Up top there, we got the L50, and down below the M50. And I've slowed everything down to try to make it a little bit easier to see. Film this on a gimbal, as you know, but of course, it's still sort of tricky as you move it along to keep things perfectly in frame. Up top, I've got the course on, as well as down below the course is on. And what you see at the very, very top are different color boxes. Those are each different data fields, in this case, power, and it's showing the different colors. So right now, I just switched to the gauge mode, which basically shows my current power in a color-coded gauge. So it's aligned to the zones I've set up, or you can do auto zones. I'll talk about more about that in the workout piece. Whereas down below here, we have the M50. In this case, it's showing following a course. And you see on the bottom there, it's actually really cool how I've got the elevation profile down there, and the gray part's the part that I've already done. And then you see the incline, basically if you like saw a red section, that would be really steep, and green less so, and so on. The blue line there is showing where we are. And in this case, because we're out in the middle of the desert, there's not a lot of other like stuff to see, but the light blue is where we're going, and then that dark blue is where we've been. So it's kind of cool. And then if we were to skip a section of the course for whatever reason, the course profile would correctly update to be in the right spot, which is kind of nice stuff. From a control standpoint, both of these units are non-touchscreen, so you use the buttons at the bottom there to go up and down, and you can confirm selections, kind of escape out of selections by pressing that far left-hand button there. In this case, I'm simply scrolling to the data fields. As you can see, it's super crisp. Now, that wobble you see there is the gimbal and me trying to stabilize it afterwards to make it even smoother, so everything's like in the center of your screen. But each one of those color boxes for different zone types. So I can have different color zones for heart rate as compared to cadence, as compared to power, which is kind of nice. And then, of course, I can customize all those to whatever I see fit. Meanwhile, back on the mapping side of stuff, you can actually change the map. You can pan and zoom as you see fit there. So you can go ahead and use those buttons to pan to the right or the left, or zoom in or zoom out. Because I'm in the middle of the desert, I'm not seeing like tons of neighborhoods and stuff, but things like lakes and rivers and all that would show up on here, which is quite different than Wahoo, for example, which doesn't have a lot of the extra detail around you on the map set itself. Okay, let's take a look at that structure workout mode a bit more. Now, again, I'm sorry the video here is not awesome at all, something I'll improve for next time. But what I'm showing you is the way their structure workout mode enumerates on the device itself. Now, Stages is known for their structure workouts and how detailed you can get. For example, you can say you want to target 275 watts or 300 watts until your heart rate gets to 165, at which point you would end that interval. So that's the kind of cool stuff you can do here. Right now, I'm pointing at that upper left-hand box, which is the target, the power target for this particular workout chunk. And as you can see, it just went green there, which means I've slid into that target zone, that target power, versus when it's at yellow, I'm really, really close, and when it's red, I'm not so close. And now below that main number on the top left-hand side there, in tiny text you cannot read at all, is the actual target power zone. So I think there it says something like 260 to 280 or so watts is my target. And so that's my feedback back to them that I gave on the ride, is that it was just really hard to see that in real life, let alone on the screen here, especially when it's slightly out of focus as it is. But still, it's super clear. You can also see other zones there. Speaking of other zones, now you see that gauge view. This shows my target for that structural workout. So before we saw a very, very colorful gauge with lots of colors. That was all my different power targets that I have available. In this case, though, I actually have a structural workout loaded, so I just want to be in whatever the right zone is for that portion of the workout. So that's that orange section there, or the red section a little bit higher than that, depending on what I'm actually targeting. Versus if I go out of that, like I'm doing right now, it's back into that gray nebulous area. So you don't want to be like in a gray zone, no pun intended, because that's bad. You want to instead target up those higher zones. Now, what I was just pointing at there, but it's a little easier to see right here, is the fact that on that right-hand side, I'm still able to see my total ride heart rate and power numbers if I want to, and then the color-coded boxes for those. So you can see down at the right-hand side there, that 221 watts, that's for the entire ride, and then my power target colors against that particular number. So tons and tons of flexibility here. Some of it might be a bit confusing at first, maybe a bit overkill for some folks, and that's cool, but it just gives you the option to do that if you want to go ahead and do that.
Okay, so at this point, most of our riding has been on the M50 and the L50, but this is the L10, this is the $149 one. That's essentially kind of like the previous Stages Dash, but with extra features, like a Stages Dash just Plus, if you will. But I wanted to briefly show you the Breadcrumb trail that you get on this from a course standpoint. This is the course that we had loaded up. Now, right now, it would show us the correct direction of our travel if we're actually moving, but since we're standing still here, it's not really going to show that as well like most GPS units. So you can see we're coming in from this side right there, and then over here is we're going to go turn left. So turn left on that road down, just downhill. It's all down. That's good. Up to the right, though, what you're seeing is kind of this, like there, if you will. You're seeing the median up there. So that's why those two lines are separated, is because it's actually both sides, our inbound and our outbound, that are showing there, which is why that's the way that is. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that a little bit there before we keep on going. That's kind of one of the main unique things that you would see on the ride itself with the L10, as opposed to the other ones have kind of more goodies to see. And just notice how damn bright these screens are. So this is, right now we're out of the sun. You can see, obviously it's dark and shady, but these things are like freaking spotlights right now. Super impressive, even in the bright sun, as you saw earlier filming, super clear. In fact, when I tried to film these back at Interbike a few months ago, I guess not a lot of months ago, it was really hard to take pictures of these indoors because they are so unbelievably bright. And it's something that Sage just talked about, actually potentially turning down some of this. They have to do that at night when it goes into that night mode, because it's just so bright. It's like just a giant flashlight on your handlebars. Anyways, let's keep on rolling a little bit. Not like rolling thunder, just rolling down the hill, because that's what hills are for. Anyways, catch you a little later. Okay, just finished up that ride, about 2 hours or so, and getting some final sun here. It's really actually a nice day out here. Glad to be able to escape the convention center area, come out for a ride. So overall it worked pretty well. I think one of the things that we're talking about at the beginning of the ride was that when a head unit works, it just works. Like, it's not a lot to talk about, to be totally honest. When it doesn't work, it's when you want to take it and there's lots to talk about, like with the Apple thing the other day. So it's sort of the same thing here. Everything kind of worked. There was certainly some bugs. It's not final. I know it's not final. So you saw, like, remember earlier on that screen, the workout screen, that actually wasn't a bug. That was the fact that the workout wasn't started yet, so therefore it showed that as blank. But there were other little quirks and things like that that are being worked on. Their time frame right now for release, they're saying sometime in February. I think that might be a little bit optimistic. I think it's probably like late February, early March, but for most people, you're probably not going to care. It's not, either you're indoors or not indoors. So if it's a couple weeks longer, that's probably fine. I think it's a good thing that they spent this extra time to get it right. So that's good. I'm looking forward to just seeing this kind of have it be finished and put it through the whole in-depth review process. This certainly is not a review. It's just me escaping CES in Las Vegas for a couple hours to go out and ride in the desert and see where things are and give you a bit of an update. So that's that. If you found this interesting, whack that like button at the bottom there, or the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more sports technology goodness here at CES. There's plenty more coming, and that'll probably trickle out over the next couple weeks as I clear out that backlog. Have a good one.